Welcome back, everyone. Abdul, are you still here with us?
I'm here. Just trying to start the book.
While we are waiting for Abdul to fix his network, I think I'll be taking over until he finalizes that. So without taking much of our time, once again, I welcome you all. I'll move on to call our next speaker. Please kindly note that the abstracts and the bio of the speakers are posted on the chat box. So our next speaker would be Dr. Christiana Idika. She'll be speaking to us on pedagogy of the heart and bioenhancement, conceptualizing Ozuzu and Elemu as an intercultural pathway for ethical enhancement. Dr. Christie, please speak to us. Thank you.
Okay, so I hope my presentation will be able to share. Just give me some time. I don't know. Yeah. Um, share screen. Sorry. Just give me some time. I'm not sure why it's taking a lot of time. Is my screen showing all?
Yes, it's showing now.
Okay, thanks. All right, so thank you so much, and I want to thank all those who presented. Actually, it was well organized because I heard earlier when somebody was talking about education and how prepared we are. So this whole idea came, when I was just thinking about this topic and the question of how prepared are we, and not how prepared simply in terms of politics or social, but how we as a people, we as individuals, children, women, men, how are we prepared? Even when we look at the little things that has to do with this whole development, social media, research instruments, and educational system. So how are we prepared? And this preparedness is not only in respect to the whole colonial relationship that Africa has with the Western world, where we are not maybe politically, economically, technologically prepared, but it is about how the human beings in this continent, how are we prepared to be recipients, prepared to be those who use it, prepared as probably instruments of experiments, and how prepared are we, how aware are we? So as a sister, I read a document before Pope Francis died. He wrote about the wisdom of heart, and when I look at the whole what he discussed in that document, I think about African ethics, and that's why I came up with this whole idea of pedagogy of the heart and bioenhancement, conceptualizing Ozozo and Ilemu as an intercultural pathway for ethical enhancement. I would have used pluriversal pathway, but I try to use this word intercultural in this context. So in the coming minutes, I will look at the African ethical frameworks. It has already been discussed, so I wouldn't lay more emphasis on it. On being fully human, the role of education, that is this whole concept of Elemu and Ozuzu. And then I will look at bioenhancement and its ethical ambiguities. The Wisdom of Heart by Pope Francis, anthropological insights, considering Gaudini, Spearman, and Catholic thought. And then I will look at AI, bioenhancement, and anthropological risk, then the pedagogy for the wisdom of heart. Finally, as a conclusion, towards an ethical, diverse, or pluriverse evaluation of bioenhancement. So the whole argument hinges on the idea that although biotechnology and human enhancement present new possibilities, it is not deniable, but that they should be considered within a larger ethical framework. A larger ethical framework will have to take into consideration not only global South relationship, but even within the continents. When I mean continents, West European continents, or Asian continents, or African continents in this case. So now, African ethical frameworks, we are all aware, I mean, it has already been discussed here. The ethical frameworks, I mean, it can be more than what I have written here, but I think most of the things that are discussed within African ethical frameworks, so we find it, all of them can be grouped in relation to the things I have here. First is the personhood ethical framework, which is, I mean, there are many people who wrote on it. I randomly picked Menkete and Chimakonam since I'm working on something that Esther Chimakonam wrote on transhumanism and personhood. And then the Ubuntu ethical framework, which we already had a little bit of it, Ramose of 2003 and Tutu 2000. And then Ojama, which has been relegated for a very long time by Nyerere in 1978. And here, Nyerere was clear with a kind of educational system that he associated or linked to Ojama. And that is very, very important for me. How to do, and that this whole idea of enhancing to do, but the whole idea of Somadina, and somebody has already discussed this. Then you have Igwebike. These are all, like I said, different shades but pointing to the same thing, and that thing is communal ethics, standing on the tripod of complementarity of human beings as relational beings, and human beings as contextual beings. By enhancement, then one will have to ask, to what extent can human enhancement take into context, into consideration the contextuality of human beings, the relationality of human beings, and this relationality as existing in different milieux, okay? So, and I said that these ethical frameworks suggest unspoken, but simultaneously, the vulnerability and dependent nature of human beings. It doesn't matter where this human being is located. So if we accept that human beings are complementary in nature, human beings are relational in nature, I mean, within African ethical framework, and that human beings are contextual beings, then we have to accept at the same time that we are vulnerable and dependent human beings. We need to be vulnerable, we need to be dependent in order to think of complementarity, in order to think of relationality, in order to think of contextuality. And this context, places a kind of boundaries or limits. Okay, so and how does enhancement of human beings, distort or improve this? So bioenhancement and its ethical ambiguities. I mean, there are promises. Somebody like Savulescu wrote in 2016 and in 2017, he also, like I raised earlier, risk of community bonds and need for ethical discernment. So the risk, some of this risk cannot be measured. Some of this risk cannot be predicted. Something about risk, we'll talk about it just after here. So let me present a kind of a course review of what Francis wrote on the wisdom of hearts. So first, he distinguished between intelligence, technical mastery, and wisdom, ethical discernment, humility, and care for the common good. And in our language, we talk about uche, amamihe. So I love my mother tongue because most of the things that is expressed within this language framework is not translatable to other languages or other maybe epistemic instances. So intelligence, sometimes we think of brilliance. A brilliant person might not actually be intelligent. So when we talk about intelligences, human intelligence or artificial intelligence, we're thinking in terms of technical mastery. That somebody in terms of doing, to judge in ability to context of spontaneity, not in terms of I was watching a short presentation by a man, and he says he started.
So, thank you very much, Dr. Christiana, for that very insightful talk. You mentioned something just before you concluded, cross-cultural ethics. And, personally enough, our keynote lecture will also touch on the concept of cross-cultural imagination. So before we come to questions for you, Dr. Christy, if our keynote speaker is ready, perhaps just the keynote lecture, then we will do the Q&A together.